All right. So, share a picture. Hi,
Hi,
Coach.
sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
How's everything?
It's all right. Is it too dark? Sorry.
That's
Um,
okay. What I'll do, Coach. Go ahead. Go ahead. There. That's better.
Yeah.
What I'll do is I'll just put it live muna on my Facebook. Then I'll put it on YouTube. I'll upload it to YouTube later so more people can watch.
Yeah, no problem. It's fine.
So kwentuhan lang tayo for about an hour. I'll ask you first, Coach. Like, you took up management economics in college. Tama, Coach.
Yeah.
You were CK's classmate, CK Chua.
Yeah, we were classmates and what class? History, I think, and then just ended up being friends. Then I think we were studying for, well, he was studying for his GMAT. I was studying for CFA, so finance related stuff.
Okay, so yon. So we'll start. I'll ask you that, and then we'll go into were you always a basketball fan? And so then I'll ask you also. People tend to think that statistics, like for example, the stat sheet that is handed to you by Merit Concepcion or Pong Docanes, that's
Yeah.
already it. But that's not exactly analytics, diba? That's just the basic stats that we get.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
more to analytics. Ayun, so I'll ask you that because people tend to think it's one and the same.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a subset, but it's not everything. Tama ba, Coach?
Yeah, I would just say it's more like I mean, they call it advanced analytics. For me, it's all data. So it's really just looking at a different type of set of numbers or different type of data. And data could also be like qualitative, right? It doesn't always have to be quantitative.
Right. Have you had dinner? Sorry.
Yeah, I had early dinner.
Sige. You want to start na?
Sure. Wait, I just want to make sure you don't see the mess in the back.
It's messy over here. That's why
Yeah,
I'm at such an odd angle.
yeah,
Let me go live first on Facebook. Okay, hold on a second.
right.
But you're good, Coach. You're
Yeah,
good,
I'm good. Yeah,
Coach. I'm sorry. This might sound like a little personal, but are you married na, Coach?
yeah, I'm married.
Oh, how's the family, Coach?
We're okay. It's just me and my wife here.
Okay.
Yeah.
All good naman. Everyone healthy.
Yeah, we're healthy. We've basically just been in the condo the whole time. Like even groceries, I just have everything delivered.
Okay. I had my COVID test last Tuesday because I've been coughing
Okay.
and they refused to let me in at the office. They thought I had COVID. I said no, it's the change in weather and
Yeah.
so. But of
You took
course,
the rapid test or you took the
one with the swabbing to nose.
solving PRC?
Yeah, people say it's more accurate. I don't know,
Yeah,
whatever.
I think it's much more accurate. The rapid test seems to be just a lot of false positive or even false negative.
Ayun. So the results came out today.
Okay.
Negative, of course, I knew it was negative. No, I mean, wow, it's what day 93 of the of since the pandemic start. I mean, the lockdown started.
Yeah.
I've never exhibited any of the symptoms. Nothing. Just a cough. It's a regular cough. But ayan, manabas. Hold on. I think the rain is messing up a lot of this live stuff.
Yeah, that too.
I Yun, so I guess you saw the article, right?
Yeah, I'm impressed. I thought it would be it was like after like an hour or so. It's like, oh, thank you for that. Thank you for featuring us.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that Coach Mon mentioned it. And sumundot si Coach Vic, So, kasi we couldn't get everyone on that staff. It's gonna sound crazy if you get everyone on that
Yeah.
staff. We only got,
If you have too
well,
many people.
yeah. And then I said, okay, why don't we do a follow-up with you? Because I'm a fan of analytics. I'm a fan
Yeah.
of it for some time, obviously because of the baseball aspect.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. You're a baseball fan.
Yes, I am. And
Yeah.
when I first heard it, mabagal, my God, hold on.
No problem.
The link to Facebook is taking a little bit.
I think the internet's generally kind of slow tonight.
Yeah. If not, if it cannot stream, I can, it's recorded naman eh.
Yeah, that's fine. You just post
So
it.
I can, yeah, we can post it later on. Pero may mga nag-aabang eh. There were
Oh, really?
coaches
Okay.
from, yeah, there were coaches from the provinces. Because I was, in one of our webinars, I was saying that everyone keeps thinking about X's and O's when it's not basketball. It's not just X's and O's.
I mean,
There are a lot of other factors. Man management is a huge part of it,
yep.
and
So,
so is analytics. Statistics, analytics, video. There's a lot. And I think that many coaches overlook that to this day. Uh, I've seen a lot of coaches good at X's and O's, but their man management skills are horrible,
yeah.
absolutely horrible, and it affects the performance of a player. So
Yep. I think that's the hard thing of being a coach is you need to be good. For me, I personally think that you need to be good at multiple things. Um,
exactly,
relationships, X's and O's, dealing with management
yeah,
itself, recruitment. They're all factors.
yeah, yeah. Hold on a second.
No
Oh,
problem.
tagal. I think we'll just record it na lang muna.
Okay, not a problem.
All right. It's just preparing. Nakalagay dun sa screen ko preparing. So I wonder why. Pero I noticed bumagal yung internet. Are you having the same problem?
A while ago, I was watching because we actually have a podcast where we interviewed Coach Tab.
Oh, how was it?
It's doing okay. It was taped, so we just released it at 7 o'clock, and then I was watching the first part of it. It's
Okay.
about almost done na siguro.
Okay. Well, pinatay ko na muna. Masyadong. Teka. Ayan, stop the live stream. All right. So it's recording.
Yeah.
All right. Good evening. Welcome to the Phil Oil Flying V Usapang Basketball. And this is another edition where it's actually a sequel of sorts to what we had the other day where we interviewed the coaching staff of that champion team of the National University Bulldogs. One person who served on that staff, and you might not see him always there, but he played a huge role. He was actually seated in the back along with the Coach Ton and the others, but the information that he provided was valuable. And you actually heard Coach Eric Altamirano say that the information that he provided also defined what they would do defensively and so on and so forth. Without further ado, Coach Paolo Layug. Coach, good evening.
Hey, good evening, Rick.
Yun, before anything else, I want to ask how you're doing along with your family during this time of pandemic, Coach.
We're doing good. We've just been staying in. Obviously, we have no practice right now. We just have Zoom meetings with our players, try to show them some video, keep them in shape. And I think like other coaches, I'm doing my part to improve. Been watching a lot, studying, writing. Like I have my own website and blog, so I write there also about different concepts or anything related to coaching. So, yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to backtrack a little bit first before we start discussing analytics and basketball. I understand you took up management economics in college at the Ateneo.
Yes, I took, we call it MECO, but yeah, management economics. Then I minored in finance. And then, yeah, so that's why I'm kind of more of geared towards numbers and math a little bit, logic. And then after I studied in Ateneo, I was a forex analyst actually. So it was really with
Interesting.
yeah.
Okay. Pero coach, did you always have this interest in basketball? Were you a fan of college basketball? You know.
Yeah, actually, I was growing up. That was really it was all about basketball for me. Like growing up, I even had like, like kids from the '90s. You'd have posters. My whole wall, I had like something I called the Jordan wall. So the
Wow.
entire wall was just Michael Jordan stuff from like Slam magazine or different sports magazines.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a huge wall just with like photos of Jordan or articles even of him. And then even in high school, like during my lunch break, I would go to the computer lab and I would just spend my time reading on NBA.com. I'd read every single article, every recap. I was a big basketball junkie. And then
Interesting.
that continued college, even after college. I actually wanted to be a coach when I was in high school while I was playing. So I knew I wasn't good enough to play. So I'm short and slow. Can't really shoot. I can pass because I knew people like to play with people who like to pass. So I pass a lot. But I knew I wanted to coach. So I actually started coaching. Well, the first time I ever coached was I was a senior in high school. I coached our middle school team, so grades 6, 7, 8.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it was fun. I enjoyed it a lot. But of course, when you go to college, your parents they have different plans for you, and for good reason also. They always want what's best for you. So I
Mm-hmm.
went away from basketball at that time, and then somehow found my way back to basketball.
Wow. What did they say about your switching to basketball?
Actually, it was at first it was like they were kind of questioning me. It was like, "Are you sure you want to do that? Coaching's it's not very stable. How like, are you gonna make money there?" Of course, they're just looking out for my future.
Of
Um,
course.
then when I started the first year or so, I was with Coach Ian NU, and then of course with Coach Alex at
Mm.
Alaska. It was funny because they bumped into Coach Alex at like some I think Capital Commons, like in the grocery or something.
Mm.
And then they started talking, and then Alex was saying, Paulo, he's helping the team, he's learning, he's growing, and I think that encouraged my parents actually. When they got home, when I talked to them, they were happy for me. They're like, and then they encouraged me. We're happy that you're happy doing what you love. Keep going for it, and they
Mhm.
were positive. I think it's really important as a young coach, and it's really hard in the beginning. It's really, really hard. You have to volunteer a lot. You need a lot. Your support system has to be really, really strong.
That's
Um,
right.
they have to support you in what you do. And there's gonna be times where like you won't have any money, basically. And you work long. It's really true. A lot of coaches I know, they all started as volunteers.
I know.
And
I understand.
almost every single coach I know has started off as a volunteer. So,
Mhm.
but it's what we love. And that's why a lot of them they just push through, right?
That's
So
right.
I
That's
was
right.
really lucky that my girlfriend, who's now my wife, very supportive. My parents were supportive, and I think they saw how happy I was doing what I really love, and so basketball related.
Coach, before we jump right in, but I just need to ask, did you start working with NU? Why didn't you work with Ateneo?
Okay.
Are they
Well,
into analytics? That might be an odd question.
okay. So what happened was actually the very first teams when I started. I resigned from my job, leap of faith. And then at the beginning, I wanted to make it like a business, like a third party company that provides analytics and statistics
Mhm.
to different teams. So I met with a lot of teams, including Ateneo. And at the time, Ateneo, I think it was more of a budget thing. And to be fair to a lot of, not only Ateneo, but all these other teams, it's something new. And when
Yeah,
it's something new and unproven or something you don't really know, you're unsure, you're not quite sure if you want to invest in it or take a chance on it. And of course, like, who's this guy, who's this Paolo Layug? Like, I'm not a former player. I'm not at that time I wasn't a coach.
mm,
I'm not son of a coach or anything like that. So it was, I just used connections and sometimes just blindly like message coaches. I'd like to talk to you about analytics.
Wow.
Yeah, and a lot of times the coaches were interested in it, but it was really an issue of budget at the time for most teams.
I'm
And
glad
then
you're able. Go ahead,
go ahead.
coach. Sorry. Go ahead, please.
Yeah. So what happened was, I mean, I consider myself fortunate because I kind of knew Alex growing up because his brother was my head coach in high school,
Mm-hmm.
and Alex also played for the Metro Stars, and
Mm-hmm.
so my family, well, my mom's family, they were like part of the ownership group of the Manila Metro Stars. So we'd watch all their games when I was growing up. So I
I
was
see.
really watching the NBA growing up.
I
Uh,
see. I see.
yeah, I love that league.
Yeah,
Um,
definitely. Yeah. I
so
was a
that's
Metro
how,
Stars fan too, you know.
yeah. So that's how I always had that relationship with Alex. But of course, that's not enough, right? So at the time, um, I was starting giving information to Alex, who was at that time an assistant coach,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what I was doing. I was seriously sending reports that were like 40 pages, 50 pages, and of course the coaches don't have time to read that. But I was just trying to send data to them just so that they might find something that's useful, and then eventually they'll get me. That was what I was hoping for. And then what happened was Alex, luckily, he introduced me to Coach Eric, who happened to be my neighbor, but we didn't know each other. And then, yeah, I talked to Coach E, and then the first thing he did was he gave me a test, which was, that was after I think season 76. So they just lost to UST. I remember that was around February or January. And then he asked me, okay, make a study on our games, NU versus UST. Why did we lose? Then I studied the four games. Then I broke down every possession and coded it, and then I gave him my thoughts and my analysis. And it just so happened that everything that Coach E like thought about why they lost to UST, he was able to support his thoughts with the data that I provided.
Mm-hmm.
So I think from there, he gave me a chance, and I'm eternally grateful to Coach E. After that, I volunteered for the first few months at NU, and then there eventually they added me to the coaching staff. Sir Manny gave me a chance, and the rest, I learned a lot from the coaches. It was really tough in the beginning.
Right.
It's like throwing me into the fire, and then I just gotta figure out by myself because it's not like you can take up a class on analytics, and there's
Right.
nobody else who was doing analytics at the time. So I was just kind of trying to, okay, let's see if this works. And then a lot of times it'd be like, okay, I'm wasting my time doing this. Like I remember I did one study on like boxing out, and then after doing it for like 2 or 3 games, I was like, this is so useless. So I stopped. So it was really parang trial
But
and error talaga.
it's trial and error din naman, di ba, coach?
Yeah, trial and error. Because it's not like sa States, diba? Parang ang dami nilang service na who tracks all the data for you, and all you have to do is analyze. So
Mm-hmm.
for me, I had to start with data collection first, and then analyzing it, and then presenting it. So every step of the way, I had to learn that step. Now the good thing is, the analytical skills that I learned while being a trader or in finance, where it's you dealing with numbers, you're looking at trends, you got to collect your own data. Also, if you're a trader, that all translated. Now, instead of studying like forex currencies, I'm studying basketball, but it's the same skill. It's just analyzing trends, looking for things that stand out, things that I think can help the team, use it to our advantage. So yeah, that was my thought process of how I
Right.
started.
Right. Coach, I'm going to take you back. Were you a fan of Moneyball, Michael Lewis's book, and all that? Everything
Yeah.
going on in baseball?
Um, yeah, actually that was one of the actually Michael Lewis. It wasn't Moneyball that like got me into analytics. It was he wrote an article.
Yeah.
I've read the book and the movie. I love the movie. I just watched it
Yeah.
last.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what happened? Oh, he wrote an article where he interviewed Shane Battier. I remember that. And it was about how
Mm,
Shane Battier, for some reason, was the
I saw
most
that.
effective defender guarding Kobe, who was my favorite player.
Mm,
And I was just so interested in how they had all these data of like the tendencies of Kobe, if he went left, if he went right. And then Shane of Battier, of course, he's an intelligent player. So he would study the reports that they were giving him, and he'd use that. And then that was one of the reasons why I got really interested in analytics. And then at the time, I don't know if you know Zach Lowe and
Yes. Yeah.
Zach Lowe and Grant Land.
Mm-hmm.
Zach Lowe used to write there. Now he's at ESPN, and his articles he made it in a way where it was easy to read and understand, and I think that resonated for me because I think a lot of the problems with analytics is people think it's so complicated when it doesn't have to be. It can
That's
be
right.
as simple as just tracking number of passes and the effect it has on your offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
Things that anyone, a student manager, can track, right? You
Mm-hmm.
don't have to be a math genius to to use analytics. And I think, you know how people are scared of like big words. I think that's one of the big words in basketball is like analytics, and everyone's like, oh, it's like they think it's like rocket science, but it isn't. It's just basketball, right?
Yeah.
I think once you get over that, and then it's that simple, pala, then I think most coaches can understand it. Of course, you have to put in the time, and you have to be a critical thinker, which is I think an important trait to have as a coach, like regardless of what level you're on.
Coach Paulo, when Coach Eric gave you that test, can you share with the people watching and the coaches watching what was one of the most important data that you drew from that study that not only validated what Coach E was thinking, but helped make that team better?
Okay. Well, I think from that study specifically, because I only studied the 4 games between UST and NU. So NU won the 2 regular season games, but then they lost in the final 4. They lost it twice to beat.
Yeah.
So, and what I found was, UST didn't actually play that much better in the final 4. NU's performance really, really dipped in terms of their offensive production. And they were missing open shots. They were turning the ball over. So they were having a higher turnover. I mean, these are simple things, but if you compare it, UST didn't actually, like, they didn't do anything super special that caused them to win. It's just, of course, I mean, I'm sure the physicality, which is something, that's part of the game, it affected NU. And that's the biggest reason why their performance fell. It was really, they couldn't score off the pick and roll anymore. They were having a hard time on their isolations. It just so happened the 2 games they were the 2 worst games they played probably the whole season. And it came during the final 4.
Very interesting. Okay. Um, Obviously, you were a massive part of that title season, which was season 77, and I was also there doing the PR for the team. Um, at 10, the team had to face 5 knockout matches in six
Yeah.
games. Um, May sinasabi si Coach Vic, the analytics is good, but we still have to deliver on the court.
Yep.
Players still have to do their part.
Yep.
Any bit of crucial information let's start off with UE. Any bit of crucial information that you provided against UE?
I think with UE specifically, because I think so that coaches can understand. I was encoding every possession of every game that season. Okay, so I have a system where I would encode per possession by possession, where spot on the floor, what type of shot, what type of play type. Was it a post up? Was it a pick and roll? Was it an isolation? And then what direction they were going. Did they go left? Did they go right? Was it no direction? So it was detailed so that we could have all this data where, okay, now we can tell that this guy goes left 70% of the time. Okay, so I guess one of the things that I provided was part of the scouting report on Charles Mami. So it's like depending on which block he was on, if he was on the left block or the right block, he was always gonna spin this way, go left or go right, whatever side it was. And then the other one, of course, obviously during that time was Roy Sumang, right? So he was a great scorer.
Yes.
I remember when we played UE the first round when we won. Like people kept saying that he was like super strong going to his right, right? And then part of the scouting report was just force him left,
Mm.
right? So as part of the scouting report, and the end game we won by I think 1 or 2 points. Sumang drove that the way we wanted him to drive, and then he missed. Okay, so we won that game. But at the end of it all. Coach Vic was right. I mean, he is right. It's up to the players, right? So in that game against UE, right? Alfred had the free throws. If he doesn't make those free throws, then we're not talking right now, right?
Exactly.
And the other funny thing was Bonga Lanza got the 3-pointer from the left wing. I really remember because like I stood up and I saw he took that shot, and in the data that we have, that was his spot, the left wing. He was like 71% from the left wing. Small sample size, but that was his best spot the entire season. He pump fakes, Glenn jumps, and then Galanza like side dribbles and takes a three. And I swear to God, I thought it was going in. And it just so happened he missed from his best spot, right? So just, you need breaks of the game also.
Of
I mean,
course. Of course.
it really comes down to the players performing. You
Right.
can have
Right.
the perfect game plan. You can have all the statistics. You can have the best strength and conditioning coach. You can have the best nutrition, whatever it is. But if you don't produce on the floor, it won't matter.
Definitely. Definitely. Okay, jumping ahead, Ateneo, and then we'll go to FEU.
Okay.
Just crucial bits of info, and then we go to the PBA.
Okay. At Ateneo, I think the crucial thing there was really because their offense was really geared around Kiefer, which is
Yes.
smart. Give the ball to your best player, and Kiefer's a great player. But at that time, he had just like a lot of college players, they have weaknesses in their game, things that they need to improve on. And at that time, Kiefer's was that he wasn't a great outside shooter, not like what he is today, and he's also much um, a lesser finisher going to his left, right? So we had all this data where okay, and there's a lot of here going back to giving the players following the game plan, giving them credit was Pau Havelona. He followed the game plan like to the dot, right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
said force Kiefer to the left, don't jump on the any pump fakes, don't jump on any jump shots, force him left. If he goes right, he's going all the way to the basket. If he's going left, he's only 24% on that jumper going to his left, so force him left. And you just hope that he keeps missing. And I think during that series, or not during that series, but the 4 games that we played against Ateneo that season, Kiefer, he struggled with his jumper, and that was the key. I guess that was the key stat that we had was really just force him go to his left, lower percentage, more frequency to shoot a jumper than going to his right, where he's likely to get to the basket, draw fouls,
Right.
finish better going to his right.
Right. Right. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay, in the finals against FEU, because as I understand it, NU did not beat FEU in the elimination round, and come the finals, the Tamaraws won game one,
Yeah.
but NU turned the tables on them and seized momentum en route to the game three championship.
Yeah.
Key stat, key analytics for that final series, Coach Paolo.
Okay, I think one of the advantages we had in that series was that we had a lot of time to prepare. So, I mean, I know you know Coach, he's very, very meticulous.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
He's like one of the most detailed coaches that I've ever met. It's really crazy. So we had 1 week to prepare between games 2 and 3. So my job, well, not my job, but what was I was thinking was how can I help the team? It's a do or die game, right? What kind of data can I provide that the players won't already know? Because it's we've played them 4 times already. If you don't know how they play, if you don't know that the Lomia likes a step back or Bello is strong driving to the basket, then I don't know what we're doing here, right? So
Exactly.
one of the things that I looked at was the adjustments that FEU did in their series against LaSalle. Because if I'm not mistaken, their games basically became best of 3. I think they
Yes.
were tied for number 2, and then if someone won. I think LaSalle. Oh no, I think FEU won. FEU won the tiebreaker game, so they became the number 2 seed. And then LaSalle won game 1, so they had the knockout. So I wanted to see what were their adjustments going from game 2 to game 3. And one of the adjustments that I found was normally they're a pick and roll team.
Mm.
And then, so I was thinking, maybe, And then I looked at that third game between La Salle and FEU, and the thing was FEU didn't use as much pick and rolls. Like their pick and rolls went down by like 50% in that game. And then what went up though was their post ups. They started going to the post more. It went up by like 100%. So the possessions that they would normally use for pick and roll, they basically moved it strategically to use towards a post up game. So that was my suggestion to Coach E. Like, and here's the thing: I have no idea if that's the exact same thing that FU will do or not. It's just a piece of data. Maybe we need to work on our post defense a little more because that was their adjustment in the previous series. Maybe they'll do the same thing. It was the same scenario. FU won the first game, and then NU/LaSalle won the second game, and now we're going to a game 3. So
Did they go to the post, coach?
they did a little bit in the first half, but they kind of like I think they started not playing well. So they kind of, and then I remember they ended up fighting. Like two players started fighting with each other, and I think again it goes to our play. Our players just stayed the course the whole time, and they just followed the game plan. So I mean that was one of the adjustments we did. We practiced the post a little bit more. Maybe it helped. Maybe they didn't score in the post as much early on, and then they got flustered, or I'm not sure.
That's right. That's right. Okay. The college game obviously is a lot different from the pros because the pros it's a little bit longer and you tend to you supposedly you have more finished product in the pros. Selling analytics, going with Alaska, was it easy? I mean, obviously Coach Alex would push for it, but selling it to the players, was it an easy sell at the start?
I wouldn't say it was easy, but I wouldn't say it was difficult because I think pro players they're more mature.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a big part of it is also the culture that we have at Alaska. It's a great organization,
Right.
top to bottom. And Coach Alex, to his credit, he helped explain, like, because at that time I was young and maybe the players wouldn't be so like, who's this guy? I don't understand. And maybe it was also me. Maybe I didn't have the presentation skills that were necessary at the time. But Coach Alex also explained, okay, this is what points per possession is. Okay, so when Coach Paolo says this is what he means. And over time, I got better at explaining it also, and trying to make it like easy that a player can understand it. So I think that was one of my advantages also in my previous job because I was an analyst, and the site that I worked for was like a Forex education website. So like the boss would always tell me, think as if your audience is a fifth grader and make it as easy that a fifth grader can understand it. So that's always been stuck in my head. So when I talk to the players, it's not like I think they're in fifth grade, but I know that I need to make it comprehensible enough or easy enough to understand so that they can accept it and okay, this is what I got to do. And over time, it's as simple as just saying like, look, he has a tendency to go left or right. I don't even have to say the percentage anymore. They just trust me because they know I did the work already.
Right?
So
that's great, diba?
Yeah.
That's great. May tiwala. Coach, you sent me this graph. Can I share it right now?
Yeah, sure.
Go and explain it. Yeah. Okay, to the people watching, si Coach Pao prepared something and you're about to see it. There we go.
Yeah. So,
Coach, can you take us through this one?
Yeah. Okay. So, I think one of the things that I gotta point out first is that you'll see on the left it says offensive PPP. So for coaches who are watching, a lot of not the old days, but before in the past, people would always say like, oh, they score 120 points a game. They're a high scoring team, right? But then, it doesn't points per game or rebounds per game or whatever you want to use. It doesn't factor in how fast or how slow a team plays, right? So for example, I'll use the NBA as an example. They used to say that the Phoenix Suns, 7 seconds or less, highest scoring team in the league. And they were, both in points per game and in terms of points per possession. And then they were saying, but they're also really, really bad on defense. They give up a lot of points, so they're a bad defensive team. But if you factor in how fast they were playing at that time, they were actually a middle of the pack team in terms of defense.
Yes.
Right? So the reason why I like to put things in terms of points per possession, it eliminates space. So you can compare apples to apples. because you can't compare, like, for example, like a Ferrari to a Toyota, right? I mean, obviously, you're comparing two different things. So if you
Mhm.
put things in terms of PPP, it eliminates the pace, and you can see how efficient an offense really is. So
Mhm.
in this chart, I wanted to compare how offensive rebounding affected a team's offense, basically, because there are teams who like to crash the boards, and there are teams who, okay, let's just send people going back on defense. I don't care about offensive rebounding, right?
Right.
And you'll notice on this chart, I put this thing here where it says no correlation between offensive rebounding and
Yes.
PPP,
Uh-huh.
right? So the example I'll use is on the bottom, it says that's offensive rebound rate.
Mhm.
Okay, so teams like a team like Phoenix and Northport, they have very very similar offensive rebound rate. But why is it that Phoenix has a much lower PPP, which is around 0.97, while
Mhm.
Northport is like 1.02? So there's a gap between the PPP of these two teams. Okay, this goes to show that even if you have similar offensive rebound rates, right, you can have drastically different efficiency on offense.
Right.
Okay, so here, Northport has a much higher PPP than Phoenix, even though they have a similar offensive rebound rate. Okay, and for me, this is one of the like reasons why you can use analytics or how you should use it. It doesn't say anything of how Northport is playing or how Phoenix is playing. It just says that Northport is a more like they're similar in terms of crashing the glass, but why is it that Northport is a better offensive team, at least based on points per possession? And from there, that can you can use that as a jump off point. Okay, now I'll go into the video. Okay, I'll watch the video and see how Northport is playing, and then you can look at other factors that are affecting its offense.
Mhm.
So based on this, and it just goes to show that there's no correlation between offensive rebounding and PPP. Because the other example here is Alaska, and of course the powerhouse teams here in San Miguel, Ginebra, and TNT.
Mhm.
Okay, they all have high PPP, but their offensive rebound rate is similar to that of Alaska. So I was with Alaska last season. Okay,
Yes.
we have the same offensive rebound rate, but we can't score at the same level as TNT, Ginebra, and San Miguel.
Mhm.
Right, and from there, you use analytics to, okay, maybe it has something to do with our shooting, or maybe it has something to do with our ability to draw free throws, or maybe we're throwing the ball away. I mean, this is the beauty of studying the numbers and looking at the analytics. It's you're really trying to determine how and why. Like, okay, first, why is it that way, and what can we do to improve? What can we do to help the players so that we can gain an edge?
Coach, do you feel that like kasi you pointed out yung talk and text and Ginebra as being powerhouse teams, no? Along with San Miguel. But the question there is, does that have to do with them also having a lot of the best players in the league at their position? Kasi I remember last year, I was discussing with one of the coaches, and he said, "Well, kasi it's easy for San Miguel or even Ginebra to win because they're the best players at that position. Like point guard, you have Scotty, you have LA for Barangay Ginebra.
Yeah.
So, di ba? I mean, do the other teams have any point guards, di ba? Maybe NLEX, Kiefer, di ba? But do the others have any point guards? So, uh, would, what do you think of that, coach?
Well, for me, I think obviously those teams have, they're capable of getting, the best players that they can get, right? And that doesn't, this is not a knock on the players in other teams.
Of
I
course,
thought
definitely.
Alaska, part of it was we had a lot of injuries last year. We didn't play well at all. We came in, I think, eighth, and seventh in the three conferences,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, and if we're healthy and if you find the right import, then maybe we have a chance against even the powerhouse teams, right? Again, the games are decided not on paper but on the floor, right? It's not as if we, when I was in Alaska, we made the finals many times. We just couldn't win it all, right?
Yeah, that
Um,
was that has to be really heartbreaking, the coach.
it was really
Especially against San Miguel, you'd lead what by 20 points, and then only to see San Miguel incredibly come back, and not only come back but they'd win the game. Yeah?
Yeah,
Uh,
it's really hard.
Coach,
Um,
in your opinion, no, looking at everything, what was uh, why couldn't Alaska get over the hump from an analytics point of view?
um, for me, part of the reason is we were never really a good shooting team. Like we'd always, I remember, you play San Miguel. Okay, they're one of the things is they of course they have Junwar, but the players around him can all knock down threes and contested threes too, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things is always you got to put the ball in the hole, right? And one was that was one factor, and I remember specifically against Rain or Shine. That was the Commissioner's Cup. We played them. We lost in 6 games.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that was really crazy in that series was that guys like Joel Ponferrada and Bo Belga, all their big guys were hitting threes. Guys, Belga can shoot threes, but Ponferrada was like 50% or something from three in that series, while our guards were shooting. We didn't shoot well. We shot like our four main guards, we shot below 30%, okay, from the field during that series. So, at the end of the day, you got to make baskets, right?
Right.
Um, and it's tough, right? We didn't have. I remember. I mean, I'm not making excuses. We didn't have AV that series, but we still made it. We made it back, right? So there's no excuses. Other guys stepped up, right? I mean, and there's so many factors that come into play. Our bench played great that conference, and we just didn't. We came close, but just didn't make it.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. I think one of it, and just in my opinion, was that you didn't know what you were getting from Calvin from one game to the next. No, uh,
Well,
but
well,
that's something else, right, Coach?
yeah. I mean, well, Calvin is, he's a special player. I mean, and I mean that in a positive way, because the energy that he has is, if I could find a way to track it and measure it, that'd be amazing. But I can't. It's really out of this world, right? Like sometimes he jumps, and his second jump and his third jump, and then the fourth jump are all just as high as the first jump, and he reacts so fast that he might make a mistake. Like he makes a lot of mistakes, but
Mhm.
because he's so fast, he's able to make up for it. And then you kind of have to live with that because he makes crazy plays. Like he'll make a deflection or a steal that any other player wouldn't be able to reach. And then Calvin does it, and then it's that one play that changes the whole game.
I think he's a game changer. He's one of those types of players whose mere presence. Having watched him with San Sebastian,
Yeah,
he was something, absolutely something. Uh, you're right. He is a special player, and I respect him. It's just too tough that right now he's in limbo, but that's altogether another thing.
yeah,
Now, Coach, I know that syempre, when you do your analytics for Alaska, it's not just the aces that you look at, right? You
yeah,
also look at the other teams, and then hopefully, and you put that in your game plans. No? Another team that could not get over the hump is the Meralco Bolts.
yeah.
Um, in your opinion, based on analytics and all that, why couldn't they beat
Bro.
Barangay Ginebra? They had the workhorse of import in Alan Durham, di ba?
Yeah,
Best import awardee. I think there was a year the best. It was si Arinze. They won the best import awards, but they couldn't get over the hump. Is
yeah.
it also the inability to score just like Alaska? Did you see that in them? What is your opinion, Coach, based on analytics? Might be a
Well,
tough one.
I would say in terms of analytics, because part of me is also like after our season's done, sometimes I'm just like I need to rest, so I won't watch anymore.
Mhm.
So I didn't encode the games where Meralco played against Ginebra. But if I were to, based on looking at their trends and looking at their overall performance, I think a big factor is really Brownlee. He's really a incredible import, right? It's funny when you show the stats on him. It's just like there's no weakness. The only weakness is that he can't pass himself the ball, right? So but the thing is he has great teammates, right? They're a very intelligent team. LA high IQ. right? And then now they have Pringle, one of, if not the best guard in Asia, right? He's so hard to guard. I mean, they have such a high octane players, and they also have good defensive players. So it's on both. You know, they're a really, really good team. They're well coached. They also use analytics, so they have an edge. They're finding an edge there also. Um, you know, it's really, you know, it's a tough time right now because for PBA teams, we're living in the time of Junmar, and then you're also dealing with Timcon and Hinebra.
That's
So
right.
there's no, you know, they've won what I want to say 10 of the past 12 championships.
That's
Right, the
right.
only other two are Magnolia and Rainershine.
That's right.
So
Exactly. Exactly.
they've won one each. So if two teams who are powerhouse lineups, right, well coached, well funded, great players,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's really a tough time to you know in the PBA right now. But of course, that doesn't stop teams from you know trying.
Of
It's
course.
nice to see teams like Rainershine made two semis last year. Phoenix made the semis.
Mm.
Um, Meralco made the finals again.
Yeah,
Uh, it's just hard. It's really really hard.
that's true. Coach, has there been an instance where through your analytics with your teams, whether it's NU or even Alaska, or even now with College of St. Benilde, where you've dispelled a certain myth? I'll give you an example. No? I remember they would say Ryan Buenafe was such a bad defensive player for Ateneo.
Yeah,
And I disagreed with that.
yeah,
And I watched for one season, I think 1 or 2 seasons, I watched all his games. And just like you, I would track down everything he would do.
yeah,
Then I came out with the data. I said, he was actually a very good defensive player because they
yeah,
didn't score much on him and he forced his man to pass the ball. So I
yeah.
came up with lots of data. So therefore, the question is, have through your analytics, have you dispelled any myth like so and so for Benilde or even NU or Alaska
Yeah.
that this is not true, that this is actually how it is?
Yeah. Actually, I'll give you three examples actually.
Go,
Okay.
coach.
So the first one is at Alaska, we used to press a lot, right? And, you know, people were saying like one of the reasons why we give so much fouls is because we're pressing. So what did we do? Me and my co-coach, who was also helping with analytics, Julian Ramos. So it was the two of us working on this. We studied all of our games for 2 years, and then okay, we'll track if how many times we fouled in the backcourt. Okay, because we're pressing, right? So if we're pressing, we should, in theory, we should be fouling away from the ball, or not away from the ball, but in the backcourt in a non-shooting action, which eventually puts you in a penalty and hence more free throws, more free throws. So we
Yes.
did our study, and lo and behold, we find that we fouled less than one time in the per game in the backcourt. Okay, so if let's say you're hitting 20 to 25 fouls a game, we've only fouled once, not even once, less than one time per game on average over 2 years. So it doesn't mean because you're pressing that it's going to lead to fouls. Okay,
Yeah.
it really comes down to proper technique and if you're doing it correctly, right? I mean, that's all it comes down to. Okay.
That's amazing data, coach. That's amazing.
Yeah. So I think that data helped in the sense na number one, you can show it, you know, to the refs or whoever, to our players, saying you won't foul if you press. Okay, it helps create buy-in because I think that's one of the big advantages of using data or
Mhm.
analytics. It's really okay. How do you convince a player to buy into what we're doing? Okay? And if you have data and you have video, and you show it to the player, look, this is us doing it, and this is what the data says. So why wouldn't we do it? And of course, they'll be like, okay, fine, coach, I got you, right? So they start doing that. Okay. Um,
Galing.
my second one is more related to the fans because I'm not, without the fans, we don't have jobs, right? But then there are times where you're like, man, these fans are just, they're too much. They don't know what they're talking about sometimes. Not sometimes, a lot of time they don't know what they're talking about. So it would always piss me off when they say like, why are you playing Kevin Racal, right? It's like, why do you play Kevin Racal? So I was like, you know what? There were so many times where I was tempted to like just post and just say, look, this is what Kevin does. Okay, he's a efficient 3-point shooter because he doesn't take bad shots. He's 38% from the corners, which is higher than got most 3-point shooters or known 3-point shooters, right? And the reason why is he doesn't take bad shots. Okay, and then number two is that he is actually at the time he was our number one guy in terms of net rating. So basically, whenever he was on the floor, he was +8, which led our team for one or two seasons, or almost every conference. Kevin was near the top. Now, of course, you have to put everything into context. Normally, he's playing with as a starter. He's playing with the import. Um, you have to put things into context, but he doesn't need the ball a lot. He plays great defense, highly intelligent, knows our plays, knows what the opponent is doing. He's guarding the best player of the other team, right? And then he's a team player, and the data shows that whenever he's on the floor, we're a much better team. Yeah, so that was one of the things. Like I love Kevin Rakal. He's a great player. You don't think of him as a superstar, but you need guys like Kevin, right? Everyone needs a defender, 3-point shooter on their team.
You know what, Coach Paolo, if I may interject about Kevin Rakal?
Yeah.
One aspect that I like about his game is that he doesn't really change his expression as he plays.
Yeah.
He just plays hard. There's no over celebration at a big shot. Once in a while, yes, but he plays with his emotions on an even keel, if I may.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the second one. I actually forgot what the third one was.
That's
but then there are times where not to this.
Meron ba sa CSB? But for CSB kasi, coach, in before you go into them, no?
Yeah.
I think they've been unlucky, and it's sad, no, that like who would have thought the last season they'd suffer all these injuries? And
yeah,
it's sakit, you root for them because that's a very good team right there,
I think we have a good group of guys. We've had a good group of guys the last few years. Unfortunately, we came up short both times. We're one game out of making it to the Final Four, and we were in control. We just had to win one. If we just won the games that were in theory supposed to win against teams that were in the lower part of the standings, we would have made it. But that's on us. We have to own up to it. That's part of basketball, right?
Yeah.
I remember now what the third thing.
Great, go, coach, go.
So me and Coach TY were talking about it, and it was like they're saying, the saying that defense wins championships.
Yes.
If that was true, then CSB would have 2 championships right now, maybe. Because we're one of the best defensive teams in the league the last 2 years. We're like last year number 2 in terms of defensive points per possession. But the problem is we're like number 9 or number 10, like last or second to the last in offense. And who are the teams that win? Okay, so San Pedro won 2 years ago. Last year it was Letran. Letran last year was middle of the pack in defense, but they were number 2 on offense. And they won a championship. So, people say defense wins championships. It's just not, it's not entirely true, right? You gotta be good at both. And if you're gonna be better at one, I think it's better to be better on offense, right? I mean, basketball is really about putting the ball in the hole, right?
Exactly.
So
that's probably the answer to why Alaska couldn't win it, because they couldn't score that much, right, Coach?
Yeah, I guess so. We were
very simplistic terms.
Sorry?
In very simplistic terms, Alaska could not.
Basically, we couldn't score. But, I wouldn't say we couldn't score. That was another thing that came up before. Like, sometimes the players don't think that the system works. Your offensive system doesn't work. So we do a study. Okay, let's see if they're right. We're open-minded here.
Right.
And then we do a study, and then I look at just half court possessions, because half court, transition, everybody can score in transition. So let's look at half court. Can we score in the half court? Okay, that's where your sets come in, your system comes in, and then we look at it. Okay, I think at that time 1 year worth of data. Who's we're top 2 or top 3 in terms of field goal percent, right? So it goes to show that our system works. The system generates shots for our players, and you just gotta knock them down. And we're number 1 we're top 3 in terms of offense in the half court. So you can't say that our system doesn't work, because it does, right?
Coach, there were some coaches who sent some of their questions in advance because kanina I was a little worried that we might have internet problems. So I said, hey,
Okay.
can you submit them?
Yeah.
Okay. There's this question from this coach based in Iloilo.
Okay.
Coach Paolo, how much time do you spend dissecting every possession?
Okay. All right.
And the time that you spend analyzing it between games. You have a game one on a Monday, a game two on a Wednesday. How fast can you get the data ready? Yeah. So I guess essentially there are two questions. How
Okay.
much time do you spend reviewing game and how fast can you get it to the coaches?
Yeah. So in terms of that, the thing about the PBA, especially when it comes to the playoffs, is that your games are every other day,
Yeah.
right? So I always like the term, speed kills. You have to be as fast as you can. So at that time, I was young. I wasn't married yet, so I could really spend a lot of time just watching games and analyzing and coding. Yeah, I think if I did that now, it wouldn't go down well. So, but a big part of it is also, it's number one. Okay, I'll answer the first question first. At that time, encoding a game would take me roughly 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so I would encode the game and I'd be tracking all these different metrics, and then right after encoding, I do it right after the game. So normally, pag PBA, whatever, if you play at 4 or 5, and or let's say 7, and you get home around 10 or 10:30, then I'd probably sleep around 1 or 2. But before I'd go to sleep, I'd send my report or the data to Coach Alex and the other coaches right away. And the analysis, the hard part is really getting the data. That is really not the hard part, more of the time consuming part. Because obviously you have to watch and you have to make sure it's correct. Because if you have wrong data, your analysis is just going to be faulty, right? So as much as possible, I'd make sure it's correct. And then I'd send it. So maybe 2 to 3 hours, and then the analysis part. While you're doing while you're watching and encoding, you already have a general feel in your head. Okay, it's going kind of like this. So you already have an idea of like, okay, this is what happened during the game. And I send my report, which might have 3 to 5 points about our game, what happened, and then maybe suggestions of what we can do for the following game. And then I'd say, yeah, 2 to 3 hours. Now the thing is, I think for a pro team, PBA, you have a lot of coaches. Everyone has their own role. Everyone has their responsibilities, and we had a really good staff at Alaska. All of us would watch. All of us would do our part. Coach Monch with the video. Coach Franco would also watch. Coach Jeff, Coach Tony, Coach Danny, Julian. Then of course the head coach Alex at the time. Everybody's doing their role. So by the time everyone does their job, everyone sends their ideas. Maybe it's to the group chat or directly to Coach Alex. Then we meet before our practice, and we already know what everyone's like, what their thoughts were. So it doesn't take that long. The hard part I would say is if you're in a smaller staff, or let's say you're a high school coach in the province or in Manila or wherever, and there's probably just you and maybe 1 or 2 other assistants. So you have to be efficient with your time. You can't track everything unless you have someone who's willing to do it and really put in the time. But being realistic, you got 1 or 2 guys to help you out. So I would focus on just what's important to you. 1 or 2 things that's important for you in offense. 1 or 2 things that's important for you in defense, and just track that.
Mhm.
So, for example, us at Alaska, one of the things we track, aside from the including the per possession, we call it a defensive activity chart. I'm sure most teams have it. They track deflections or
Yes.
steals, charges, whatever it is. So part of those stats are in ours, but one of the things we would always track is contest rate, and we called it jam and dog when we would press. So how like when we're pressuring the ball, we call that dogging. Like how effective we were in jamming the ball in the inbound or dogging the players when they bring the ball up. So we track that, and then based on our studies, I mean, as you would think, higher contest rate, higher jam and dog rate, and leads to more wins normally, right? So I mean, every program has things that they want to emphasize. It depends on the head coach. I'd focus on those things.
That's very interesting, Coach Paolo, because those jam and dog, that will also contribute to the turnovers by the opposing team because they only have X amount of seconds to get that ball in play. Tama, Coach?
Yeah, that's correct. Actually, that was always my. Of course, I'm a coach, but I wouldn't be on the bench. I'd be behind the what do you call this? I would be on the second row or the first row of if you're in Araneta. And
Actually,
then
Coach, it's not such a bad position because you're elevated and you can see the
yeah,
floor.
actually, I can see more because obviously I'm not tall, right? So if I'm beside like Danny Ildefonso or Tony De La Cruz, who's like 6'4", 6'5", I'd have to go like this just to see what's happening on the other side of the floor. So being at the back and I'd have to track down my own stats. It's okay. So yeah, I'd always be happy when like I'd I'd always be happy when we'd force a 5-second count, or like my favorite is always like we force them to call a timeout. I think that's like a big win because it's like you rattle them and you make them waste the timeout. Especially timeouts in the pro game, it's for strategy purposes. Then 8 seconds, we try to force 8 seconds, and then we'd also track that actually. Like mostly, Coach Julian would do that. Like he would track when the player or the ball would cross half court, and then let's say it's at the 17-second mark or 18-second mark, and then we'd see that effect on our half court defense, like field goal wise. Like, okay, the longer we delay them, the lower their field goal percent would be. So I mean, these are just examples of things that you can track. And for me, I don't mind sharing all this information or things that we're doing because I'm hoping that other coaches and will be more open to analytics. And this is what I mean by analytics. It isn't like some crazy formula where all of a sudden it's you're gonna win games, right? You're tracking things that you do.
It's a tool.
It's a tool. It's like it's like business, right? When you're in business, you look at all these different financial ratios: your profitability, liquidity,
Yes.
like your asset to liability ratios, whatever it is.
Mm.
So if you would run a business that way, looking at data and being logical and looking at key performance measures, why wouldn't you do the same thing for basketball?
Right.
I mean, and especially at the at the end of it, and this is the sad truth about coaching, but you need to win games to keep your job, right?
Definitely.
So if you need to win games to keep your job, put food on the table, take care of your family, why wouldn't you do everything legally possible to help you win? And so why wouldn't you study the game using statistics or basketball, analytics to help you make decisions? Like you said, it's really a tool. It's just for me, it's always just been it's a tool. It's a part of the puzzle. It's never the entire picture.
Right.
You're just using it to make better decisions.
Definitely. You're watching Usapang Basketball, talking analytics with Coach Paolo Layug. We're down to our last 10 minutes. Ako po si Rick Olivares. Coach Paolo, we have two more questions from
Sure.
coaches. No? The first one, and I'm actually glad that you touched on it. This coach is also from the province, from Pampanga.
Okay.
Coach, dalawa lang kami sa coaching staff namin. Hindi ko ma-afford yung analytics. So, aside from yung stat sheet, ano yung dapat pwede kong basic na tignan sa tape?
Okay. So, I think I mentioned that already a while ago. Ano yung dalawang, like, the two things that you think are important?
Yes.
So, let's just say you're a coach that emphasizes passing.
Mm-hmm.
So, make that one of the things you track. Number of passes per possession and its effect on your offense. So, for example, when you make 2 passes, ano yung field goal percent mo? Ano yung points per possession mo pag 2 passes? Pag 3 passes, mas mataas ba? 4 passes, 5 passes. Okay, and then compare. Maybe you're better off with 0 or 1 passes, right? If that's the case, then you have to decide. Maybe I should pass less. Or what am I doing wrong when I are you overpassing? Am I passing up good shots? Right. So that's what I would recommend. Just focus on one or two things. Right. So maybe on defense, for example, if you're a pressing team, right? Do you do man-to-man press? Do you do zone press? Do you mix it up? Okay. Why don't you track the result of each press? Every time you do a man press, see if they score, if they miss, if you foul, or if you kung may turnover. Kung nag-zone press ka, mas effective ba? Mas are you delaying more? Those are simple things that you can track even if you're 1 to 2 people. I know it's really hard because even me, for example, most coaches have multiple jobs, so time is very very important. And if you're a head coach, you might not have time to look at everything. So if you're the head coach and you just want to look at certain data that's important to your program, just focus on that.
Right. That's why sometimes you have other coaches thinking of certain situations in the end game. So the
Yeah.
coach doesn't have to
Yep.
think of it. He just thinks of the macro.
Yeah.
Right.
So for example, like I'll give an example. It's like, and there's a lot of coaches who do it. It's like Coach Topex, right? He's really open about it. He makes Coach Jeff Perlas be the one to do all the timeout plays, or
Mhm.
most of them at least, right? So that because there's so many other things that as the head coach that Topex is thinking about,
Mhm.
right? So if you're the head coach of a program in Pampanga or wherever, Iloilo, you're the head coach, and if you're in a high school team, you probably have to deal with grades, with
Mhm.
parents,
Yeah.
or maybe resources, just trying to find funding for your team. And it's
Resource.
understandable. You might not be able to use or invest in analytics. So just make the most of what you have. Maybe you can get a student manager, and I've seen this in Korean teams or like teams in the States. They have the bench players or the student managers. They're the ones taking the stats during the game, whatever stats it is. And then when they sub in, they give the paper and the pen to the player who subbed out, and then it's that player's turn. I mean, you got to be creative, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
That's being resourceful, coach.
yeah.
In fact, okay, we're down to our last question. It's a twofold question, coach, from an NCR coach. Uh, how many teams in the PBA, to your knowledge, make use of analytics as part of their game plan? And the second part of the question is, Coach Pao, magkano ba dapat ang budget to set up an efficient analytics team? Ako, medyo mahirap yata yun. Ha? Ayan, Coach, go.
Right. So for the first one, okay. For the first one, on my knowledge, right now, there's of course Alaska,
Mm.
Hinebra, Patrick Partosa, very smart guy also. Um, TNT, Sandro Soriano. I know Phoenix has, so that's 4 teams. Meralco. I'm not sure if Index has, not really sure. And a lot of these PBA teams, they have, they make use of other resources, or not really resources, but should I say third-party services.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So use those third-party services, and then they kind of give you additional data that's different from the normal stat sheet. So whatever that type of data it is, it's at the end of the day, it's how you use the data, and not really so much what the data is. Of course, it's important you have to have the data, but it's kind of like if every single team had analytics, let's just say, that's my dream one day. Every team has it, they use it, just to elevate the level of play here in the Philippines. But where do you gain the edge if everyone has it? Then it comes down to the analyst,
Yeah.
right? It comes down to the person who is analyzing the data, and the head coach who is using the data, and using it to strategize for their game plan, for their practice.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot. I'm there are more and more teams that are investing in analytics, but I think more than investing in the third party services, what's really gonna grow the role of analytics in the PBA and in Philippine basketball is if there are more and more young coaches who specialize in that, or not really specialize in it, but have an interest in it at least.
Mm-hmm. Coach
So
Paolo, I will just add lang to that. No, do you
yeah.
notice since the time that you were talking to all these college teams, Have you noticed that more college teams are now making use of analytics?
Yeah, I would think so. I know that, of course, a team like San Beda, Ateneo,
Mhm.
um, they have in their own way, whatever way it is. I mean, I might think of analytics as one way. I want to track it. I want to track this data, lineup data, or defensive activity data. And what I consider to be important for our team or what our head coach thinks is important
Mhm.
might be completely different from what another team wants or looks at, right? Maybe the head coach there wants it's like Coach Alex and wants everything, or maybe he's another coach who I don't need the data that much. Just give me A, B, and C, and you know what? It's perfectly fine, right? But I do think more and more college teams are being receptive to it. There have been other coaches and other staffs who have messaged me, trying to learn about it. There are more and more younger coaches entering the industry. And the nice thing about, like, for me at least, all the coaches I've interacted with, they all want to help each other out,
Mhm.
right? It's like it's a brotherhood. Even if we're on different teams,
Yeah,
we're all trying to help each other out. Trying to learn from each other.
that's right.
We're people aren't that secretive.
Mhm.
We're trying to get better,
That's
right?
right. That's right. To the coaches watching this webcast with Coach Paolo Layug, regarding the data, it's good. I have this saying: I'd rather have it and not need it, and
Yep.
need it and not have it.
Yep. Yep.
So that's why I think that what Coach Paulo and his other colleagues in analytics do is damn important to the game, because I don't think it's revolutionary. I think it is a tool that will help you, as Coach Paulo said earlier, get those valuable wins and championships.
Yep.
That'll allow you to keep your job.
Well, it's. I think it's really also just the mentality, Rick. Because, like, for me, at that time, right, when I was young, I just wanted to win. Like, I really, really wanted to win and help the team. It's really special to be part of a team, to be a coach, to be in basketball. I think it's the best job in the world for me, right? And for me, I just love the game. What if there's a way I can gain a 1% edge? I'm gonna try and find it, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I've lost, our teams in Alaska. We've lost in two game sevens by one possession.
exactly.
I mean,
Yeah,
two game seven series. Okay, so we were right there. So it's just where are we gonna find that one possession? And that's the thing. I remember now, like when I was interviewing with all these schools and these teams, I would always start my presentation, and this was based on facts, like because I did a study in the PBA over 3 years. And my first slide would always be, did you know that one out of every three games was decided by one possession? One out of every three,
mm,
right? So if you knew that, wouldn't you do everything that you could to get that one possession? Because if you're playing, let's say in the UAAP, 14 games, right? So let's say 33% of those games, let's say 4 or 5 games. Let's say four. 4 games are decided by one possession. Now, in a one possession game, you'd expect to go 50-50, so you'd win 2 games probably, right? So what about the two other games? What if you could get one possession that helps you win that one game,
yeah.
right? So what if, like, I'll give an example, is UE and us. We had a knockout game,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
Knockout to get into number 4. What if UE had won one more game that year? Or what if we had won one more game that year? And
Mhm.
then we're straight into the final four instead of having a knockout, right?
That's
I
true.
mean, especially, we play short tournaments. That one game means so much.
Definitely, definitely. Interesting data here from and learnings and experiences shared by Coach Paolo Layug. Sa mga coaches and dun sa lahat ng nanonood nating kaibigan dito sa ating webcast sa Usapang Basketball, maraming salamat sa inyong tanong. And we're sorry we could not get this live because nagpa-fluctuate yung internet at this point in time.
Yeah.
Nevertheless, if you have any questions, kindly direct it to Coach Paolo and inquiries for his services. The
Yeah.
man is doing a good job. I was with him when he was at NU. I was just doing PR and I was very impressed with him. And the man is part of the championship team. Coach Paulo, any final words for tonight, even to the people watching, or even analytics itself? Anything you'd like to say?
Well, for me, first of all, thank you, Rick, for having me on. It's always fun when you talk about basketball, and
Yeah.
extra fun for me when you talk about analytics. It's kind of nerdy, but I think you kind of understand it more because baseball and basketball also. For me, my message to any coach or any aspiring coach is just keep learning. Um, it's a tough time right now, but stay positive, be productive, and just try to expand your knowledge of the game. It can be any topic in the game. It can be analytics, it can be scouting, it can be video, strength and conditioning. Just try to absorb as much as you can because right now we have the time. Once the ball starts rolling, you know how basketball is. It's a grind again. Then we don't have much time anymore. So now just make the most of the time. If you have any questions, you can message me on Facebook or you can email me, coachvplayug@gmail.com. You can also check out my website, coachvplayug.com. I post a lot of blogs, a lot of videos there. Just trying to help educate other coaches and try to stimulate discussion between different coaches so that we can try and grow the game that we all love.
We recommend that you really look into his blog because it's one of the most interesting reads that you will find on the internet today, especially when it pertains to Philippine basketball. With that, we want to thank Coach Paolo. Thank you so much for gracing this show tonight, and we really appreciate it. We appreciate what you do, and more power to you. And hopefully, you'll help Benilde win that elusive championship.
Hope so.
Now, we want to thank also Coach Ariel Vanguardia, my colleague Joey Guillermo at Phil Oil Flying D Sports, at sa lahat ng mga nanonood ngayong gabi na umuulan. Everyone, stay safe because this virus has not yet been beaten. Maraming salamat. Good night, Pilipinas. Thanks, Coach. Bye-bye.
Right. Thank you, Sir Rick.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.